So the art of travel and module C, which as we know is called representation and text, and the elective, of course, is people and landscapes. The idea of a personality at the centre of writing or a text, and that personality's place within a landscape or an idea. So it's very important that when you start to read Module C's text, which is a non-fiction, Alain de Botton's The Art of Travel, that you place the idea of this guy at the centre of the narrative, which is what he does as well. This is part of what we're trying to concern ourselves with. The word representation tracks us back to our earlier experience with English studies, in that we have always worried about what does a text mean through teasing out the hows. How does the language manifest itself as truth or fiction? Is it trustworthy? What kind of forms are in here? What does he play with in terms of moving backward and forward in language, time, tropes, ideas, all the things that make the whole text complete and work as a unified piece. So this thing, firstly, we should concern ourselves with more than anything else at this point is the title here, which is The Art of Travel. It's not just a travel log with someone writing, this is my travel log, this was my holiday. He's looking at travel as an art form, creating a sense that travel can be an artistic pursuit. A journey is therefore seen as some kind of statement, as some kind of pursuit of meaning. And so therefore it's not random, and it's not based on sort of tourism at all. And he certainly doesn't use the word tourism, the art of tourism. He uses the word travel. Travel is in its more traditional sense. And he's possibly harkening back to the classical idea of travel, which was to do sort of like the grand tours and things like that. Now, if you don't know what that means, the grand tour in its day was sort of making sure that you went around the Mediterranean and you visited all the ancient wonders of the world, or what was left of them. And to do all of them, all seven, was the grand tour. It was almost a circle around the Mediterranean, there around the Mediterranean coast, Colossus of Rhodes and the Pyramid of Giza and all this kind of stuff, which was what was considered to be the right thing to do at the right age. And then travel, of course, moves on to, say, even in the 20s, 30s and 40s, when there was travel was a very different thing to what it is now in terms of how you were able to travel in ships and on trains. To tour somewhere, to travel somewhere, was again seen as an artistic or sociological pursuit. You went, say, if you grew up in Australia, it was very important that you went back to London at some point as an adult. You returned to England or to your own country for a while and either came back or stayed there forever. The modern concept, of course, of putting ourselves in a plane and just going to another country for a couple of weeks and coming back is, as you know, very recent. And possibly this is what de Botton is trying to remind us of, that more classical version of it. Is it a romanticised thing? We'll see in terms of what he's doing with this particular piece. But when we see the term art of travel, that brings us straight into the sense that this could be a much more romantic concept of what travel is. We get the contents page. So the contents page, so I've got a digital book, so they're links. And we see that each section really is based on his title and on some broader concepts: departure, motives, landscape, art, and return. And each one of those is a sequence that you should consider holistically. You should say, okay, there's departure sequence, the motive sequence, the landscape, and so on. And in each of those, as you can see, it's broken down into further smaller parts. So that is also something that we concern ourselves with in terms of representation. How does the title of that sequence, of that idea, of that moment, if you call it a chapter, how does that inform us as a reader as to what we're going to be dealing with as we start to engage with this text? All right, so departure. And we get there first on anticipation, on travelling places, on the exotic, on curiosity, on the country, on the sublime, on eye-opening art, on possessing beauty, on habit. Each one, you'll note, has this on here, all right, which is almost very much the Romantic writer. It's almost ode-like in its terminology. It's not necessarily journalism, and it's not necessarily travelogue. Okay, it's about art. In my copy, and I'm hoping it's in yours, before you actually get to the text itself, you get de Botton in the centre of the text, reminding us of who he is. And this is common for a lot of texts, of course. We have it about the author. You can see here what he has done before: Romantic movement, Kiss and Tell, How Proust Can Change Your Life, The Consolations of Philosophy, and The Art of Travel. And of course, he's written subsequent stuff since then. If you look at those titles, you get a sense of what kind of person we're dealing with here. This isn't someone who's, and again, not running a travelogue. This is someone who is very much at the forefront of an intellectual or academic type movement. My version has this link. I've sent you that link before. Then we get something that's normal with a lot of texts. We get the review. And the reviews are part of the text and are considered important when we're dealing with representation in text. We don't worry about them so much when we're dealing with the other modules, but module C, you've got to deal with the whole physicality of the text that you have, because it's how this sort of is placing itself in terms of its asking you to say, what kind of text is this? This is a great work, and therefore I'm going to take it seriously. And the first thing that we get are the descriptions of how good it is by certain chosen critics. Playful and erudite, de Botton's ability to draw quick pen portraits of his chosen writers and painters is impressive. His command of their work, masterful. Dispenser's shafts of beautifully crafted, insightful prose. I loved the clarity of his expression, his honest relish of his travelling dilemma. The gap between dreams and their fulfilment had never spanned with greater allure. Honest, subtle, sensitive, an excellent companion either for days under a gloomy British sky or island hopping in the Mediterranean. And they continue, as you can see. Everything is at the heightened level of how good this is. And they're not just nobody. We've got Independent, we have the Times Literary Supplement, the Sunday Times, the Independent. We have pretty serious journals, okay? And so it's suggesting that this is a high quality work for all of us to enjoy and be involved with. Departure. This is an interesting page. These are fascinating, these photos. They're certainly, to me, they're perplexing and troubling because their quality is certainly not what you expect of a published text. And when you look at the front cover is quite detailed and quite beautiful, and in a bookshop it's going to look magnificent. And I think that's pretty clear. But then we get these tiny squares of these photos. They're not even in photo frame sizes, and they're not framed either. They're placed there. It's almost childlike. Black and white, overcrowded image of Hammersmith here in London. We have our guide, and we have a picture of Barbados, or at least we assume it's Barbados because there's some palm trees there. It looks almost like a Year 7 kid's PowerPoint, with all apologies to students in Year 7. It does. And so we need to sort of come to terms with that first as we go. Anticipation is the other word that's a key word on this page. Anticipation is a very, very alluring word in terms of travel. As soon as you decide you're travelling somewhere and you buy your tickets and you print them out and you put them on your fridge or you have them somewhere, they're there to remind you that at some point this magnificent change in your schedule is going to happen, this wonderful break from routine, which is what travel suggests of itself and why it happens. You know, we're getting away from these Monday to Fridays, these sort of day-to-day grind that we have. It's stuck in one place and cementing ourselves to one area and one house and then working a job because we have a mortgage to pay for that one space. And travel has that appeal of freedom, so therefore there's an anticipation. And here we have contrast, don't we? The Hammersmith London and Barbados, the very cluttered space here around what looks to be quite an old-fashioned street guide. Looks like the old Gregory's guides that were in cars when I was a kid. This, particularly the old fonts, doesn't look like a Google map at all, does it? And this open, alluring space of Barbados, this lack of humanity here. And we get this guide, and so we know that this person is not of our time as well. Now, I'm doing all this to remind you that if you did this for every page of the book, you'd never finish the book. But when you're doing representation in text, it's very, very important to understand that you are asked to really think about the minutiae of certain aspects of any text in the response. So take your time with certain bits, the bits that you really, really enjoy in this book, the bits that sort of strike out for you. Go back and actually start to pull apart every phrase, every moment. Pick a paragraph, pick a page, and say to yourself, what can I really do with this particular moment in terms of its language deconstruction, its form, the context of where it appears in the book, what de Botton's voice is, if it's consistent. All of those questions that you should be asking all the time. So I stay on this page because I remind you that there's a lot that can be said just on what appears to be a paucity of images and a not very good one. But here we are with and I'm not even sure I can pronounce this guy's name, Huysmans. Doesn't sound like an English name and he doesn't look like an English gentleman. So who he is and what he is, we're asked to find out as we go. That's alluring for us in terms of the text. And, you know, some people might go, oh, the text is about anticipation of reading The Art of Travel, maybe. But really it's about how do we get from here to here, possibly. Okay. And the first sentence, after we've seen this and this image of Barbados, very beach-like image, summer holidays, that kind of stuff, we go over. What do we get? We get, it was hard to say when exactly winter arrived. Already the suggestion that there is a desire to be somewhere else because we see winter, of course, as a time of being sort of bedding down, not going anywhere, hiding, or if you can get somewhere, leaving winter behind, which is really, really key to what's going on here. So a very personable voice is the first thing that really comes through with these opening few moments describing the onset of a London winter, famous for its greyness, its dampness and its drabness. There's not beautiful snow to dance around in. There's not the lovely crisp days you might get here in Australia, although he does mention one or two of them. There is a continuous sense of grey. And that, of course, creates the decline of any person. And so this fantastic language and description of the decline into winter sets up the narrative, and we get to understand and even empathise with this voice. We hear from an artist pretty early. Here we are here. And so we understand that this guy's going to be keeping that at the forefront of the narrative. He's at the centre of the narrative with the eye, and we get to see his reaction to the state of things.